Meteorologist Tim Buckley with you right now. This is our Hurricane Ian coverage, 3 o'clock this afternoon, watching it move across the Carolinas, and things have been changing quite a bit as we went through the last couple of hours, and right now we're starting to see the storm move onshore into the Carolinas, and from here is when we expect some of those harsher conditions locally. We're talking about gusty winds, the heavy rain, all the things we've been mentioning for several days. But what I want to do here is give you a wide overview of the storm and then dive into some of those details. Here's where it is right now. The center is just kind of crashing ashore in South Carolina. So the latest from the National Hurricane Center gave this thing at 85-mile-per-hour winds right there in between Charleston and Myrtle Beach. So as we look at the radar live at this time, you can see the storm center. It's kind of pinwheeling, right? It's spinning very closely onshore now in South Carolina, and it's been doing a fair amount of damage too. Places like Myrtle Beach have been getting hit hard with surf, the rain, and those winds. Pawleys Island as well have really been seeing it quite a bit. Notice it's a big storm though. We already have seen some rain here locally, and heavier rain bands are starting to wrap around. More on our local area in just a second, but if you have interest here at the South Carolina coast, they are really continuing to get hammered. This is the Myrtle Beach area, Horry County right here, Brunswick County. This is where you have Holden Beach, other places like that. And they are really continuing to see the high winds, the storm surge. When we talk about surge, that's the wind from the hurricane pushing the ocean onto the beach. And this is the worst part for that because the storm, remember, rotates counterclockwise. The center is right here around Georgetown, South Carolina. So just north of that, you have Pawleys Island here. We've seen some photos indicating that parts of the pier there has been destroyed. Lots of coastal flooding. That's what they're experiencing in those beaches. Myrtle Beach has been seeing that storm surge flooding as well, as has parts of Oak Island, Holden Beach, Sunset Beach, many of the Brunswick beaches. The geography of the coastline here actually captures the water a little bit more. So it gets trapped in this area when it gets pushed for several hours, and that's what they are dealing with. We have an official landfall, by the way, in South Carolina, which means this will be the stat that goes down in the record books. Right there near Georgetown, it happened within the last hour at 2:05. Category 1 hurricane, winds at 85 miles per hour. The pressure on that thing was 977. That's the second U.S. landfall. Of course, it happened earlier close to Fort Myers, Florida, and before that, it made landfall in Cuba as well. So technically, 3 different land masses have been struck by this hurricane. Notice the heaviest rain band is ironically on the west and southwest side right now. It remains to be seen how much of that will work its way into our area, but there's plenty of other storms going on in North Carolina that we have to watch. A lot of heavy rain in eastern North Carolina. There's an active tornado warning in places like Carteret County. We're seeing that. And this is a tornado watch. One thing I want to make clear, we do not have any threat at all for tornadoes here in our part of the state. Why? It's been so chilly outside. Temperatures are in the 50s. It's very cool to have tornadoes happen. It needs to be warm and muggy. It is that way in eastern North Carolina. So they have a tornado watch for several hours. Earlier, around noon, just after noon there, Brunswick County, Holden Beach did report a tornado in that area. So that's what's going on out east. Let's talk about here locally. If we're being real, the storm hasn't been too bad for us yet. Yes, we've had rain. Yes, we've had wind. We're starting to get in some power outages as well that are now starting to number in the thousands. The rain, though, has been pretty intermittent. There's been some dry air that got into parts of the hurricane that made it more on and off rather than constant. That is starting to change a little bit, though. Let's take a look at your live radar south of I-40. So anywhere south of Greensboro right now, you are seeing these constant downpours that really aren't stopping. They're just continuing to go and go and go. So Randolph County, you're dealing with heavy rain. Same idea in Davidson County, Chatham County as well, and south to Montgomery. This is pinwheeling in. It's moving in, rotating around the storm. And as the center of the storm moves closer and closer to us, which it will, we're expecting the storm center over our area tonight. That's going to make those winds and the rainfall a little bit worse. Current wind gusts in the 20 to 30 range north of Greensboro, but see what's happening? The winds are getting stronger as the storm gets closer. So it's more of a 40-mile-per-hour wind gust farther to the south, and that is what is moving our way. I expect the worst part of this storm will be between about 6 p.m. and midnight. So that evening time frame is really a good time to be inside and kind of stay there for a while. It'll get more difficult to travel across the region at that point. Winds, we just showed you the gusts. These are sustained winds. The difference between that is this is a steady breeze that's not varying at all. So it's coming in steady at 20 to 25 miles per hour and then gusting every now and again up closer to 30 and 40. We can take a live look over Winston-Salem. Notice how it's bumping in the wind. This is getting more windy as we go along. This is the same case in Burlington right now, where you do have some of those gusty winds and some of the rainfall as well. And yes, those chilly temperatures that I already mentioned, which are in the 50s. There's the path of the storm. Again, hurricanes are big. They're not a dot on the map, but this is just showing you where the center will be going. So from Georgetown, South Carolina, it moves northward inland. This icon just representing that the storm will no longer be considered tropical. It's kind of turning into more of a nor'easter at this point. That's academic though. What we want to care about is where is the wind and where is the rain going. Notice the storm center is now forecast to move over Greensboro tonight. That happens around midnight tonight. That'll be when the center of the storm moves through our area. We are in the center of it. So futurecast, as we go into the next several hours, this is around 5 and 6 o'clock. Dinner time, we should see an increase in rain. We'll see that, of course, through the evening as well. Rounds of heavy rain continuing to move in. And along that storm center path, which is somewhere in this area, this is 1 a.m. Notice how it continues to move through. Most of the rain is on the north side of the system. So for example, this is 4 a.m. Most of the rain is over, even though the center is still level with us. So at that point, the storm has been on land long enough where it starts to weaken. Let's talk about the wind gusts. Anywhere from 30 to 40 miles per hour right now, but by the evening, they're gusting more frequently in that 40 to 50 mile per hour range, which as of now, we really haven't seen. Once that happened, we could have a little bit more to worry about in terms of power outages or trees down, things like that. This is tomorrow morning though. If you're waking up early, you're noticing it's still windy outside, but it shouldn't be severe. In fact, I'm not expecting any severe weather for Saturday. Most of the weather just continues to improve as we go into tomorrow. So pretty good news as far as your weekend impacts are expected. As far as right now, we're still monitoring the wind gust potential of 35 to 50 miles per hour. That certainly could create some scattered power outages. Tornadoes will not ever be a concern for our area. We can guarantee that. And right now, the flood threat, it might not materialize. We've only had less than an inch of rain so far. We're going to get a lot more, but the localized flooding is what we'll want to watch for. Not widespread, but localized. At this point, it looks like only about 1 to 2 more inches of rain is possible. That might be plenty enough that we can handle. It's been very dry lately. There will be no flood threat for the weekend. In fact, the weather will start to improve as the hurricane pushes away and weakens. Here's what we're left with tomorrow. Mostly cloudy, a spotty shower in some areas. That'll be your Saturday. And it could be kind of a rainy weekend at times on your Sunday as well, but it's not dangerous and it's not damaging. We're going to continue to watch the radar every step of the way and give you more updates. Of course, you can watch us live on our newscast as well, 4 to 6:30 tonight. Ben Briscoe's been monitoring social media and has a lot of pictures to show us.
So Tim just showed you windy, really big on the map there. Well, that wind is already starting to impact the Triad. Take a look at this. Over on West Wendover Avenue, right there is a tree that fell on the power lines, causing the power to go out in that area. Across the Triad right now, there's about 7,000 people without power. It is not just in Greensboro. Over in Alamance County near Elon, their traffic lights totally out. By the way, if you see that, please treat it as a four-way stop. You don't want to go on through. I want to show you how people are getting prepared. Today, Greensboro's mayor signed the state of emergency declaration. I know it sounds scary. What that means is if it gets really bad here, we're going to be able to qualify for state and federal help. So it's not a really scary thing. It's an important thing to have done. Lots of people across the Triad trying to prepare right now. You can see folks went to the grocery store, got some Cheetos, some milk, all that ready to go. We also have this great idea from Katie. She said, we don't have a garage, so we parked our cars in different places so one limb doesn't take out all three. You want to be thinking like that. Think ahead. Now is the time to prepare. And finally, I want to show you 2.5 inches of rain already starting to fall in parts of North Carolina. Out on the coast, they actually had some surfers out there taking advantage of the waves ahead. You can stay with us on WFOYnews2.com for complete Ian coverage.